chosen ones, have you ever paused long enough to ask yourself, what if my life is not entirely mine? What if the patterns you follow, the dreams you chase, even the fears you hold, were planted in you by something or someone far older than your memory, far deeper than your thoughts? In this video, we explore the unsettling, extraordinary idea that your life may be part of a grand ritual, not of your own design, but one that began long before you were born. A spiritual blueprint set into motion by unknown forces, continued by your daily actions, and destined to complete a cycle you never consciously agreed to. This is not fiction. This is not myth. This is the unspoken truth you've felt in your bones your whole life, but could never name until now. Watch this video until the very end. It holds messages meant for the depths of your soul. If you feel called, share your warmest wishes in the comments below, and include the number 77, a signal to the universe that you are awakening and activating your energy. This is the only part of this video where we'll speak of wishes, because this message is not about asking for blessings. It's about remembering the truth of who you are and reclaiming a life that may not have even started with you. Now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive deeper. Think of the ancient rituals: fire circles, chants under the moon, symbolic sacrifices. In those ceremonies, the individual wasn't just living. They were participating in a grand, often invisible operation. It was more than action. It was continuation. Now ask yourself, what if modern life is the same, just hidden beneath the veil of normalcy? Your morning routine, your 9-to-5 job, your constant need to achieve, impress, consume, succeed. Who wrote that script? Was it your soul? Or did you step into a role crafted by generations before you? A role so ancient and precise, it feels like fate. The rituals of old were intentional, sacred, guided by elders and shamans. Today's rituals are disguised as culture, education, tradition. You inherit them, but you do not question them. You are told how to behave before you even know how to breathe. You are given goals before you even understand what meaning means. You are assigned roles: student, worker, spouse, parent. The script unfolds. The ritual continues. But whose ritual is it? Imagine your ancestors, not just your family, but the soul lineage you come from. Imagine them carving out paths in energy, in blood, in memory. Some of them were awake, some of them weren't. And those who weren't may have handed you not a legacy, but a loop, a ceremony you were born into, an invisible contract your soul never signed, but was bound to fulfill. You repeat it every day, through your doubts, your fears, your habits, your compromises, not because you're weak, but because the ritual is that strong. This is why certain patterns in your life feel too familiar. Certain pain cycles, relationships that echo one another, failures that repeat, inner voices that seem older than you. These are ritual imprints, echoes of an old ceremony. And until you awaken, until you step outside and see it, you will keep playing your part. And the moment you do see it, everything changes. You're no longer a participant. You become the disruptor, the rewriter, the one who breaks the sacred circle to start a new one, consciously, powerfully. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. This is remembrance. Your soul is ancient. It knows when it's acting freely and when it's acting under a spell. That spell could be family expectations, cultural norms, unconscious loyalty to past pain. It doesn't matter what form it takes. If it's not chosen with full awareness, it's a ritual you're trapped in, and it's time to break free. But here's the truth. Breaking the ritual isn't easy. The moment you begin to question it, everything around you resists. People may call you selfish, lost, dangerous. The system will push back. Even your own body may ache, because the ritual wants to survive, and the only way it survives is through you. That's why your awakening is so sacred. It's rare, it's divine, it's dangerous, but it is necessary. Because the world doesn't change by repeating ancient patterns. It changes when one soul says, "This ends with me." That soul is you. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've always sensed a hidden truth behind the world's noise. You weren't born to play a part in someone else's script. You were born to write a new one. Still, you must go deeper. Ask yourself, what rituals have I inherited without knowing? What beliefs have I accepted without proof? What pain have I normalized because it was passed down to me like an heirloom? The answers to these questions are not in books. They're in your body, your breath, your emotional reactions, your fears and desires. Every time you overthink, every time you self-sabotage, that's not just behavior, that's programming. That's the ritual pulsing through you. But you can stop it. You can slow it down. You can breathe, observe, and choose differently. The moment you do that, even once, you weaken the spell. And when you do it twice, 3 times, every day, you begin to rewrite reality itself. Not just for you, but for everyone who comes after you. The ritual loses power, the chain breaks, and what remains is freedom. The question is not whether your life is a ritual. The question is whether you will remain asleep within it, or rise as the conscious force that ends it. Your rituals may have begun before you were born, but they don't have to end after you die. They can end now, in this breath, in this choice, in this awakening. You were chosen for this, not to obey, but to liberate. You wake up every day thinking you're making choices, but how many of those choices are truly yours? You dress a certain way, speak a certain way, dream within a certain range, and no one questions it because everyone is doing the same. That's the sign of a ritual. It isn't necessarily loud or obvious. It moves silently, like breath, like inheritance, and it persuades you to keep going along with it because it rewards obedience with comfort and punishes divergence with isolation. But chosen ones are not here for comfort. You are here for truth, even if it costs you everything familiar. You must begin to recognize the subtle chains made of words like should, have to, must. These are the whispered vows of a ritual you never signed, but somehow swore to. You say, I should do this. I have to be like them. I must succeed in the way they expect. Who taught you these things? Did they empower you, or did they program you? Did they bring you closer to your soul, or make you a servant to a system you don't even understand? The most dangerous rituals are not the ones performed with robes and candles. The most dangerous are the ones disguised as ordinary life. The ritual of being liked, the ritual of staying silent, the ritual of dimming your light so others feel more comfortable, the ritual of pretending you don't feel what you feel. These rituals are ceremonies of forgetting who you are, forgetting what you came to do. And every time you perform them, you drift further from yourself. But drifting doesn't mean defeat. It simply means you must return. Return to what is real. Return to what was never taught, but has always been known, deep within. That's where your power lives. Not in repeating the old ways, but in recognizing when they're not yours. That inner voice that makes no sense to anyone else, that's the one you must listen to. That strange calling that pulls you in directions you can't explain. That's the new ritual trying to be born through you. Understand this. Every ritual needs a vessel. Without your belief, your obedience, your repetition, it dies. So if you want to dismantle the false ones, stop being their vessel. Stop breathing life into things that break you. Start channeling that breath into something real, something aligned, something alive. That's what the new path is. Not rebellion, not chaos, but sacred alignment. Rituals based on your own inner knowing, your own spirit-made structure. You don't have to burn it all down in one day. The ancient programs don't shatter with force. They dissolve with awareness. The first step is not war. It's seeing. See what you've been acting out. See the scripts you've been handed. And instead of running from them or blindly performing them, simply ask, is this mine? That question alone can unravel lifetimes of illusion. And when the answer is no, when you realize something isn't yours, you have a sacred choice to make. You can let it die within you. You can stop feeding it. You can stop using your sacred energy to power someone else's design. And when you do that, something incredible happens. Space is created. Space for new truths, new dreams, new energy. The real kind. The kind you came here to embody. Chosen one, your soul is not random. You didn't land in this life at this time by mistake. There is a reason you've always felt out of place in this world. There is a reason the rituals of normal life have never quite fit you. Because you weren't meant to continue them. You were meant to awaken in the middle of them, realize their falseness, and start something that's never been seen before. That's the burden and the beauty of being chosen. You feel everything more deeply because you see what others don't. You're not just going through the motions. You're analyzing the pattern, feeling the weight, questioning the cycle. That's painful, but it's also divine, because from that pain arises the courage to end the pattern forever. And that ending creates room for a new reality, not just for you, but for every soul still trapped in the sleep you escaped. Do not underestimate the power of your awareness. Even noticing the ritual is a sacred act. You are already beginning the process of spiritual interruption. A pause in the cycle, a break in the spell. And from that pause, the real you can rise. You will be misunderstood. You may be abandoned. You may feel like a stranger in your own home, in your own culture, even in your own skin. That's what happens when you stop being a mirror for the old rituals. But remember this, you were not sent here to be understood. You were sent here to understand, to witness the illusion, to name it, and then to build something holier from its ruins. The moment you see the ritual for what it is, the lies dressed as customs, the expectations disguised as purpose, you have already changed the outcome. You have already rewritten the end. And the more you return to your truth, the more the ritual breaks. It does not end with rage. It ends with remembrance. You were never meant to be a shadow of the past. You were meant to be a flame of the future. Not a continuation, but a correction. Not a reflection, but a revelation. This is how worlds change, not through mass movements, but through quiet revolutions of the soul. One chosen one at a time, remembering who they are, refusing to play the part, and rewriting the story from within. You are that one. You always have been. Have you ever wondered why your most personal thoughts don't always feel like your own? Why your fears echo with voices that sound strangely familiar, but aren't yours? That is the mark of inherited programming, passed down not in blood, but in behavior. You were born into a ceremony already in progress, a ritual built by those who came before you, a ceremony of expectations, beliefs, duties, and before you could even speak, you were already being taught the choreography. They gave you a name. Then they gave you a role. And every step after that was carefully aligned with an invisible map no one questioned. Go here. Do that. Believe this. Marry then. Work here. Stay silent. Be polite. Don't stray. Don't shine too bright. Don't speak too loudly. Don't feel too much. And little by little, the soul that came here to awaken was wrapped in layers of performance, a sacred spark disguised as a citizen of someone else's idea of life. But the chosen ones never fully forget. Even if they play along for a time, there is always a restless knowing beneath the surface, a pressure behind the eyes, a friction in the chest, a hunger for something more real. You may have silenced it for years. You may have buried it beneath achievements, relationships, distractions, but it never truly leaves, because it is not a desire, it is a remembering that all of this, was not written by you. The world will tell you to be grateful for what you have, but if you were handed a life built on someone else's terms, gratitude becomes a chain. It seduces you into loving your own cage, and that is the ultimate ritual. To be so deeply conditioned that you call your programming freedom. Look carefully. Where did your ambitions come from? Who told you what success looks like? Who planted the image of a life well lived in your mind? And why does it look the same for everyone? These are not questions most people ask, but chosen ones cannot live without asking them. Because the moment you feel the falseness of it all, pretending becomes impossible. That's why they may call you lost, rebellious, dramatic. But what they're really seeing is someone who refuses to keep performing a ritual that kills the soul slowly. Someone who is brave enough to pull the curtain back and see the wizard for what it is. Smoke, noise, illusion. And once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. Once you know the ritual is not sacred but scripted, your true life begins. But make no mistake, breaking the ritual comes with a cost. There will be moments when you will wish you could forget what you've seen, when the weight of your awareness will feel too heavy to carry alone, when the safety of the old ways will whisper to you like a siren song, "Come back. You were happier before. You had more friends. You had a place." But that place was a cage, dressed up like a castle. That version of happiness was anesthesia. And what you've traded for it is real. Pain, yes, but also purpose. You are not here to conform. You are here to confront the rituals that strip people of their power, that reward silence, that shame authenticity, that program obedience. You are here to interrupt that pattern with the vibration of your truth. Not always loudly, often in quiet, radical acts, saying no, saying yes, leaving the table, walking a new path, loving yourself in a world that profits off your self-doubt. The ritual will try to reclaim you. That is its nature. Systems preserve themselves. They will send people into your life to remind you of the script. They will mirror your doubts. They will test your conviction. But each time you stand in your truth, the spell weakens, not just for you, for others watching you silently, secretly hoping your courage means something real is possible for them too. You become the new ritual, not one built on control, but on consciousness, not on fear, but on freedom, not on repetition, but revelation. You become a living ceremony of remembrance, proof that a different life can be chosen, even if it wasn't offered. That's how the old world ends, not with destruction, but with awakening, with one soul saying, "This ends with me." And let's be honest, not everyone will understand, not everyone will celebrate you, but they don't have to. Because this isn't about applause, it's about alignment. And the more you align with your essence, the less you need permission to be who you are. They will say, "You've changed." But you haven't changed, you've returned. Returned to the sacred pattern beneath the false ones, the one that was never imposed, never designed to manipulate you, but placed within you like a compass made of starlight. You don't need to search for it. You are it. It's in your voice when you speak your truth. It's in your steps when you walk away from what no longer serves. It's in your silence when you refuse to perform. That is the new ritual, and it begins with you. So do not shrink to fit the frame they gave you. Shatter it. Let them think you are breaking. You are not. You are birthing, and nothing could be more sacred than that. There's a reason you felt like an outsider, even in your own life. It's because something ancient in you remembered what this place was supposed to be, and what it has become feels off. The words don't match the energy. The smiles don't match the eyes. The celebrations feel hollow. The milestones feel scripted. Everything moves, but very little lives. And you, being sensitive to truth, to energy, to meaning, felt the discord early. You may have been told you were too sensitive, too intense, too serious. But what they were really saying was, "You see what we've all agreed to ignore," and that makes us uncomfortable. Because the world runs on unconscious rituals, traditions that keep people asleep, distracted, dependent. Most aren't evil, they're just empty, repeated by generations who forgot their origin but obeyed anyway, because deviation felt dangerous. And now, here you are, no longer able to obey. That's not rebellion, that's awakening. You've outgrown the old skin, the one that was tailored for a smaller version of you. But there's a moment of terror when the old identity dissolves and the new one hasn't fully formed. You're standing at the edge of who you were, staring into a space no one prepared you for. That's what the ritual never accounted for. Someone brave enough to stop mid-performance and ask, "Why are we even doing this?" That question is your sword, your fire, your escape. Because once you ask it sincerely, the illusion starts to crumble. The traditions you thought were sacred begin to reveal their origins, not in love, but in fear. You see how obedience was disguised as loyalty, how exhaustion was praised as commitment, how silence was rewarded as wisdom. These were not acts of love. These were survival mechanisms in a system built to tame the soul. But your soul was never meant to be tamed. The chosen ones are not here to polish the mask. They're here to remove it, to expose what's behind the show. And when you do, you realize how deep the performance goes. Family roles, gender expectations, cultural templates, religious scripts, social currencies, all shaped long before you arrived, handed to you like a costume at birth. Some of those costumes are beautiful, some even carry meaning. But even the beautiful ones become prisons if they don't reflect your truth. And that's the sacred dilemma. Do you continue the ritual to be accepted, or do you break it to be free? You already know the answer. That's why you're here. But freedom isn't just a decision. It's a path, a shedding. And every layer you remove reveals another one beneath it. One belief leads to another. One awakening cracks open the next. Until one day, you look in the mirror and no longer recognize the version of you that once needed to be approved, needed to be understood, needed to be enough by their standards. That version was just the echo of the ritual. And now, the echo is fading. There's loneliness in this path, make no mistake. When you stop participating in the rituals, people notice. When you no longer nod along, fake your smile, or hide your truth, they don't always applaud. Some will call you arrogant, ungrateful, difficult. But understand, that's not about you. That's about their fear of having to question what they've built their lives upon. Your courage threatens their comfort. Your freedom exposes their chains. And not everyone is ready to look at that. But don't shrink for them. Don't dim yourself to be digestible. That's another ritual. The shrinking, the self-erasure. It serves no one. You're not meant to fit into old molds. You're meant to melt them. That's the invitation now. To let go of inherited identities and step into the unknown. Not as a reaction, but as a return. A return to what's real. To the voice that existed before the noise. To the truth that doesn't need validation. To the version of you that remembers, not through thought, but through vibration. This is what the old world fears. Someone who remembers their soul. Because a soul in full remembrance cannot be manipulated. It cannot be bought. It cannot be contained. It becomes a signal, a light that calls out to other lights. And slowly, the ritual begins to collapse. Not with a war, but with a wave of awakenings. One chosen one at a time, disrupting the program by refusing to run it. That's how it ends. Quietly, powerfully, authentically. Not with grand gestures, but with invisible rebellions. A truth spoken. A boundary drawn. A tradition questioned. A silence broken. A life redesigned. And suddenly, the ritual becomes visible. People begin to see what they've been part of. Not with shame, but with clarity. And from that clarity, a new path is born. A path that doesn't need performance. A path that is lived, not rehearsed. And those who once called you difficult, they may follow, or they may fade. But you will walk in peace either way, because you know who you are. And that knowing, that sacred knowing, cannot be given to you. It must be remembered. You're not breaking the ritual to hurt anyone. You're breaking it to heal something that has been broken for too long. You are the pivot point, the one who said, "It ends with me." And in that moment, something eternal shifts, not just for you, but for everything your life touches from this day forward. There comes a moment, silent and without ceremony, when you realize you can never go back. Not because they won't let you, but because you no longer belong in the place you once called home. The costume it gave you doesn't fit. The words feel forced. The rhythm no longer moves you. It's like standing in the middle of a dance you once performed perfectly, and suddenly you no longer remember the steps. That forgetting is not a mistake. It's your rebirth. When you stop participating in the rituals that were never yours, the world around you shifts. Some doors close without warning. Some faces disappear. The echoes of your old identity go silent. And in that silence, you meet the most terrifying and liberating truth of all. No one is coming to save you. Not your family. Not your culture. Not your community. They were trained to preserve the script, not to question it. You are the exception. You were born not just to live, but to awaken. And awakening is not about finding more things to believe in. It's about unlearning everything you were told to be. That process is sacred, but it's also brutal. Because you will grieve the illusions. You will mourn the version of you that worked so hard to be accepted, to be loved, to be good. You will feel the ache of seeing through the ceremony and realizing it was never sacred, only rehearsed. They told you that loyalty meant staying. But true loyalty is not to tradition. It is to truth. You don't honor your ancestors by repeating their survival patterns. You honor them by healing the trauma they couldn't. You honor them by saying, "This pain stops with me." You honor them by being the one who doesn't pass it forward. That is what makes you chosen. Not bloodline, not title, but willingness. the willingness to feel what others refuse to feel, to see what others refuse to see, to live what others were too afraid to imagine. And what will you find once the ritual is broken? Not answers, not immediately. At first, you find space. Terrifying, beautiful space. The kind of space most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Because in that space, you can no longer blame the ceremony. You can no longer point to the script. It's just you and the raw, unfiltered question. What do I believe? Who am I without the programming? What feels real, even if it makes no sense to anyone else? That's where your true life begins. Not at the peak of some external success, but in the quiet return to yourself, to your breath, to your intuition, to the knowing that has no words, but has always been there. The part of you that was never touched by the ritual, the part they couldn't reach, because it was hidden in silence, waiting for you to become brave enough to stop performing. You're not here to abandon everything. You're here to choose what's real. Not all rituals are toxic. Some are sacred, born from truth. Some carry memory. Some carry beauty. But if it doesn't speak to your soul, you're not obligated to carry it. Not even if they guilt you. Not even if they cry. Not even if they say, "This is who we are." Because who you are now is not a reflection of obedience. It is a mirror of your evolution. And evolution is messy. It threatens systems. It disturbs comfort. It creates waves in still water. But water that never moves begins to rot. You are not here to rot. You are here to ripple. And your ripple might become a wave that reaches far beyond what you can see. Someone you will never meet may one day awaken because of a choice you made today. That's legacy. Not what you leave behind when you die, but what you free while you live. And if the world tells you you're selfish for choosing yourself, let it. If they say you're lost because you left the ritual, let them. You don't need to convince anyone, because this path was never meant to be understood by the masses. It's a narrow road, carved by footsteps that refuse to be copied. It's not crowded, it's not lit, but it is real. And the moment you start walking it, life stops being a performance. You stop chasing meaning, and you become meaning. Not through perfection, not through knowledge, but through presence. You begin to notice the things others overlook. You begin to feel energy in silence. You begin to walk slower, breathe deeper, listen more. You begin to live not from memory, but from alignment. You don't wake up to resume a script. You wake up to write one, or not to write at all, just to be. That's the great rebellion now, to be in a world that's forgotten how. You are not a mistake. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are simply awake in a system that depends on sleep. So let them misunderstand you. Let them mislabel you. It's not your job to be legible to those reading from the wrong book. You are not here to be deciphered. You are here to be experienced. By yourself first, and then by whoever is brave enough to meet you where you truly are. Let the ritual collapse. Let the mask fall. Let the performance die. Because what rises in its place is holy. And this time, it's yours. What happens when the ritual ends? At first, silence. The noise fades. The expectations dissolve. The eyes that used to watch you, judge you, approve you, control you, no longer matter. And that can be terrifying because for so long, your sense of self was tied to the ritual, the applause, the nods, the belonging that came at the cost of your truth. But then something miraculous happens. You begin to hear a sound, one not outside, but within. A pulse, a whisper, a memory of who you were before they gave you a name, before they told you who to be, how to act, what to chase. It is the sound of your soul, alive again, unscripted, undirected, sovereign. And in that moment, you realize you were never lost. You were buried under rituals, under roles, under ideas that had nothing to do with the real you. You were buried beneath 1,000 silent agreements to stay small, stay soft, stay quiet. But now, every breath you take without performing is resurrection. Every step away from the script is a return. You are remembering that you are not a character in a play. You are the author of the whole story. Not just your own, but part of a larger rewriting. The world has played the same scene for too long. War, shame, silence, control, repetition, tradition without heart. The old stage is crumbling. The old gods are losing their power. Not because someone fought them, but because people like you stopped feeding them. You stopped believing that pain is noble, that suffering is currency, that obedience equals love. You broke the spell, and when one chosen one breaks it, others feel it. Not always immediately, but something stirs. A tension, a curiosity, a sacred discomfort. And that is how change begins. Not from institutions, but from individuals who are brave enough to question the inherited. Brave enough to walk alone, long enough to become whole. Brave enough to say, I will not continue what I don't believe in, even if it means losing everything. But here's the beautiful twist. You don't lose everything. You lose the version of everything that wasn't yours to begin with. And what rises in its place? Truth, connection, aliveness. Not always louder, but deeper. The kind of peace that doesn't need to be proven. The kind of love that doesn't come with conditions. The kind of purpose that emerges in the quiet moments no one sees, but your soul recognizes. You begin to live as if your breath matters, as if your presence itself is a prayer. You speak only what is real. You offer what is authentic. You walk away from what drains your spirit, even when the world tells you to stay. You don't perform anymore. You radiate. And that's the ultimate shift, from ritual to radiance, from survival to embodiment, from being shaped by life to shaping it. You realize you were never meant to fit into the pattern. You were meant to unweave it. And in doing so, you leave behind something greater than legacy. You leave behind an energy, a vibration, a memory encoded in the universe that says, once a soul chose truth over approval. And the world changed. You don't have to become famous to leave a mark. You just have to become real, because in a world built on performance, truth is the most revolutionary act. And now, it's your time. Not to wait, not to wonder, but to embody. You've looked behind the curtain. You've felt the hollowness of the play. You've heard the whisper calling you home. There is no need to run anymore, only to rise. You are not a product of the ritual. You are the force that ends it. You are not continuing what was started by someone else. You are starting something no one before you was brave enough to begin. You are the new template, the new story, the quiet flame that refuses to die. Let them keep their rituals. You have become the fire. Now that you've seen it, you can never unsee it. The illusion, the repetition, the way entire lifetimes can be built on rules that no one ever questioned. You recognize now that most people are not living, they are maintaining, echoing words they never wrote, playing parts they never auditioned for, holding on to beliefs that were passed down, not chosen. And the scariest part? Most of them think this is normal. But you, chosen one, you broke the fourth wall. You looked at your own life and whispered the forbidden question, what if none of this is actually me? That question shattered the veil. And in the ruins of the performance, you found something both terrifying and divine. The truth isn't out there, it's in you. It always was. But you were trained to doubt it, to delay it, to defer to the script. And now that you've remembered, you must choose what to do with it. Because awakening is not the end of the ritual. It's just the beginning of your rebellion. You don't just tear down a false identity and walk away untouched. There's a reckoning, a sacred fire. Everything that isn't real begins to fall apart. Your relationships, your career, your inner voice, even your dreams. Not as punishment, but as purification. You're being emptied so you can be filled with something real. You're being stripped so your soul can breathe. And in that in-between space, after the performance has ended, but before the new life has taken shape, you may feel lost, confused, lonely, like nothing makes sense anymore. That's normal. That's the space where rituals go to die and truth begins to grow. Don't rush it. Don't try to make it look good. Just stay in the fire until the fire becomes you. Let the silence teach you how to listen again. Let your body show you how it feels to live without pretending. Let your intuition become louder than your fear. This is where your power sharpens, not in front of a crowd, but in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching. Every time you refuse to betray yourself, a thread from the old ritual unravels. Every time you choose authenticity over acceptance, the veil thins. Every time you say, "No more," the energy of 1,000 ancestors who couldn't say it before you rises in approval. You are not healing just for yourself. You are ending echoes that have lingered for generations because someone has to. And the world won't applaud you for it. The world will call you rebellious, lost, unstable, even dangerous. But that's because the world fears what it cannot control. And you are becoming uncontrollable. You are not operating on the frequency of survival anymore. You are becoming a transmitter of truth, a living contradiction to everything the system teaches. And slowly, without asking permission, you begin to live in a new rhythm. You eat differently. You move differently. You speak from a deeper place. You're no longer trying to be understood. You are trying to understand yourself. And in doing so, your presence begins to disturb every lie still clinging to the air. You walk into a room, and it shakes loose the dust. Not because you said anything, but because you've become the reminder that another way is possible. That life can be real. That existence can be sacred. That we don't have to keep playing the same game if we no longer believe in the rules. You're not here to destroy. You're here to dismantle and rebuild. To feel everything others numbed. To speak what others silenced. To stand where others knelt. You're here to live as if you were never meant to perform. Because you weren't. You were meant to become a portal, a doorway back to something ancient, raw, and holy. You don't need to announce this. The right ones will feel it. The ones who are also on the edge of waking. The ones who have tasted truth but haven't yet stepped into it. Your life becomes the invitation. Not a speech, not a lesson, a vibration. And that is the greatest ritual of all, to live as truth without needing to explain it. So if you feel alone, remember, most revolutions begin in silence, and most leaders are made in shadows, not stages. You are not lost. You are reorienting. You are not late. You are moving by soul time now. You are not broken. You are unraveling the false to reveal what was never touched. Let the ritual end. Let the self rise. Let this life, your true life, begin, finally, with your full permission. And when the world asks, what happened to you? Just smile and say, I woke up from the dream someone else was writing for me.